Ever feel like life's a little bit, like trying to juggle 5 chainsaws while blindfolded? Just way too much going on, you know?
Yeah, it's like everything's got to be so complicated these days.
Right. Like we're drowning in information and options and gotta-do lists. So today we're hitting the pause button on all that and going deep on, well, simplicity.
Sounds refreshing.
Totally. And our guide for this deep dive is a book called The Beauty of Simplicity Lessons from the Sacred Atlantean Brotherhood. It's written by the group's founder, this guy named WaXhira.
Okay, and who are this Sacred Atlantean Brotherhood exactly?
They're a philosophical group, and their whole thing is that everything is actually, at its core, pretty simple.
Interesting.
Yeah, they basically think that all the complexity we see around us, it's more of an illusion than anything else.
So they're kind of like cutting through the clutter to see the underlying truth or something?
Exactly. And it's really reflected in one of Waxira's quotes from the book. He says, "To fully understand something, understand its basics, simplicity can be found in everything."
Huh. The more I think about that, the more it kind of makes sense.
Right.
Like even with something as complicated as technology, if you break it down far enough, you get to some pretty basic stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Like my phone, right?
Hmm.
My phone feels incredibly complex to me.
And it is. But at the end of the day, it's all just a bunch of ones and zeros running through tiny transistors.
Whoa, so you're saying that all this incredible technology, all the stuff my phone can do, it's all built on those like really simple building blocks.
Precisely. That's what we call emergent complexity. A bunch of simple things interacting in very specific ways to create something much bigger and seemingly way more complex.
That is so cool. So we've kind of established that a lot of complexity can be an illusion, but the source goes a step further, right? It also says that embracing simplicity can help us actually understand things better. How does that work?
Well, there's this great anecdote in the book. Waxhira is talking about his mentor, right? And the mentor basically told him that if you can't explain something simply, like imagine you're trying to explain it to a child, then you probably don't actually understand it yourself.
Wow, that's kind of harsh, but I get it.
Yeah, it's a challenge for sure. But think about it. Haven't you ever sat through a presentation or something and the person is just using all this jargon and big words?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah, and you just walk away feeling even more confused than when you started. That's often a sign that the speaker themselves hasn't really grasped the core of what they're talking about.
Makes sense. So true mastery is about being able to break things down and explain them simply no matter how complex the topic is.
Exactly. Like think about those scientists who can explain their groundbreaking research to like a 5-year-old and you're like, wow, they really know their stuff.
Oh, yeah. I love those videos. It's amazing to see someone who's just so fluent in a complex subject that they can communicate it simply and clearly to anyone.
Right. And that's a valuable skill, not just in science, but in any field, really.
Yeah.
Good communication is all about clear, simple language that anyone can understand.
Absolutely. So we've seen how complexity can be an illusion and how embracing simplicity can actually help us understand things better. Now, this whole idea of getting to the core of things, it also plays into how the Sacred Atlantean Brotherhood views spirituality, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. The source has some fascinating insights about that.
Okay, I am definitely intrigued. Tell me more about what this group has to say about spirituality and simplicity.
Well, they start by acknowledging that a lot of spiritual teachings and practices can seem super complicated on the surface, right? All those rituals and symbols and doctrines can be really intimidating, especially for someone who's just starting out.
Totally. It's easy to get lost in all that stuff and feel like you're missing something.
Exactly. But the Sacred Atlantean Brotherhood argues that if you strip away all those layers, all the fancy rituals and dogma, what you're left with are some very basic human values. Things like love, compassion, mindfulness, connection. These are things that just about everyone can relate to, regardless of their specific religious or spiritual beliefs.
So it's like they're saying that true spirituality isn't about all the complex stuff, but about connecting with these fundamental human values that are already within us.
Exactly. They believe that our true essence, our core being, is inherently simple. And things like happiness, peace, joy, these aren't complicated things we have to strive for. They're already present within us. It's just all the layers of complexity, our desires, our fears, our attachments to external things that get in the way and obscure those natural states of being.
So they're not saying we're all just walking around blissed out all the time, but that the potential for happiness, the seeds of joy and peace, they're already there.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And they believe that the path to cultivating those seeds lies in simplifying our lives, both internally and externally. Clearing away the clutter, the noise, the distractions, so to speak, to create space for those natural states of being to emerge.
This is giving me a lot to think about. It seems like this idea of simplicity can apply to so many different areas of life, not just technology and understanding, but our spiritual lives as well. It's all about stripping away the unnecessary layers and getting back to the core of who we truly are.
Absolutely. And that concept has some really profound implications for how we live our lives, how we make decisions, how we relate to others, how we find meaning and purpose, all of that.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from the illusion of complexity to the role of simplicity and understanding and spirituality. But now I'm wondering, how does all of this actually translate into our everyday lives? Can we really use this idea of simplicity in practical ways?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, the source goes on to give some really specific advice about how to apply simplicity in different areas of life.
Okay, tell me more. Where do they suggest we start?
Well, they suggest focusing on four main areas where simplifying can really make a difference: decision-making, communication, problem-solving, and personal growth.
Okay. Those sound pretty fundamental. And honestly, areas where I could definitely use a little less complication.
Yeah, me too. So let's start with decision-making. How do you think simplifying can help us make better choices?
Well, I guess sometimes it feels like we get stuck in this analysis paralysis, right? Too much information, too many options.
Exactly. The Sacred Atlantean Brotherhood says we often overcomplicate our decisions by getting bogged down in all that stuff, all that mental chatter. They say if you just focus on your core values and the essential facts, you can make decisions way more efficiently and with more confidence, too.
So it's about kind of cutting through the noise and figuring out what really matters most.
Exactly. Let's say you're trying to make a big career decision. You got different options, pros and cons for each one. It's easy to get lost in all that.
Yeah, been there for sure.
The source says take a step back. Ask yourself, what are my core values when it comes to work? What's truly important to me in a career?
So, like, figure out your non-negotiables first.
Right. Once you know those, you can look at each option and see how well it actually aligns with what you really value. It's like using your values as a filter.
I like that analogy. Filter out the noise, get to the good stuff.
And then, once you've got it narrowed down, just focus on gathering the essential facts about those top contenders. No need to get bogged down in every tiny detail.
So simplify the information intake as well. Makes sense.
Less stress, more confidence in your choices. That's the goal.
Totally agree. Okay, what about communication? How does simplicity factor into that?
Remember that story about WaXhira's mentor? Saying if you can't explain it simply, you probably don't get it.
Yeah, they explain it to a child challenge.
That applies to communication in general. Presentations, emails, even just talking to friends. Clarity is key. The source is all about using clear, concise language. Get rid of the jargon, cut the complexity.
Oh, man, I wish some people in my office would hear this. It's like every meeting, someone's got to bust out the buzzwords and go on this long-winded explanation that just confuses everyone.
I know exactly what you mean. It's like the curse of knowledge, right? When you're so deep into a topic, you forget that other people aren't on the same page. You start using jargon without even realizing it.
It's not about dumbing things down. It's about making sure everyone's following along and actually understands what you're saying.
Exactly. And when you focus on clear, simple language, well, that's when communication actually happens, right? That's the whole point.
Okay, that's a good reminder. Now, problem solving. How can simplifying help us tackle those inevitable challenges life throws at us?
I think a lot of problems seem impossible because we see them as this big, complicated mess. But the Sacred Atlantean Brotherhood suggests that we can make problems way more manageable by breaking them down into smaller, bite-sized pieces.
It's like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right?
Perfect analogy. Say you've got this massive project at work. It's easy to get overwhelmed by the whole thing.
Yeah.
But instead of trying to do it all at once, just break it down into smaller steps.
So instead of staring down this huge mountain, we focus on putting one foot in front of the other.
Precisely. Focus on completing one small task at a time. Makes the whole thing feel less daunting.
That's a great approach. Turn a seemingly impossible challenge into a series of smaller, achievable steps.
And it works for personal challenges too. Bad habits, learning new skills, even navigating tricky relationships. Break it down, and it all becomes a little less overwhelming.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've covered decision-making, communication, problem-solving. What about personal growth? How does simplicity play into that?
This one's all about consistency. The source is big on small, consistent actions over time. They think these simple daily practices, the ones we often overlook, they can actually have a huge impact on our well-being. like expressing gratitude, practicing mindfulness, doing something kind for someone.
It's easy to get caught up in thinking we need to make these huge changes to see results, but they're saying that small, consistent actions, they can lead to big changes over time.
Exactly. It's like compound interest, but for personal growth. Little by little, it all adds up.
I like that. Compound personal growth. And because they're simple actions, it's easier to actually stick with them, right? Make them a habit.
Exactly. So whether it's decision-making, communication, problem-solving, or personal growth, the key seems to be stripping away the extra stuff and focusing on the core principles and actions that really make a difference.
I'm seeing that pattern too. It's all about getting back to basics, right?
Right. And the Sacred Atlantean Brotherhood believes that this whole approach, this embracing of simplicity in all areas of life, it's a path to greater clarity, peace, even fulfillment.
This is all really resonating with me, but now I'm kind of wondering, where does this path of simplicity ultimately lead? Does the source talk about an end goal or something?
You know, they do talk about a path to enlightenment, but not in the way you might expect.
Oh, okay, now you've got me curious. Tell me more about this path to enlightenment. What do they mean by that?
Well, they don't see enlightenment as this, like, super exclusive thing only a few people can achieve.
Okay, so it's not just for monks meditating on a mountaintop for 50 years.
Right. It's not about that. The source makes it clear that enlightenment is a state of being that's available to all of us all the time.
Interesting. So how do we tap into that then?
They say it starts with simplifying our lives, both internally and externally.
Oh, less stuff, less mental clutter, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's part of it. It's about creating space. Space for a deeper level of awareness, a deeper connection to things,
Connection to what exactly?
to ourselves, to other people, to nature, even to something bigger than ourselves, however you want to define that.
Okay.
They say that when we strip away all the unnecessary layers, all the complexity, we're able to tune into like the subtle energies of the universe, the natural rhythms of life.
You know, that makes me think about those times when I feel most, I don't know, connected and alive, like when I'm out in nature or listening to music or having a deep conversation with a friend. Those moments always feel so simple, yet really profound.
Exactly. And the Sacred Atlantean Brotherhood, they think those moments are actually glimpses of enlightenment.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, they're moments when we tap into that deeper awareness, that connection that's always there, just waiting for us to notice it.
So by simplifying our lives, we're creating the right conditions for those moments to happen more often.
Exactly. We're clearing out the clutter so that something greater can emerge.
I love that. So does the source give any specific advice on how to actually cultivate that sense of simplicity and connection in our everyday lives?
Well, they don't lay out a step-by-step plan or anything, but they do talk about the importance of practices that help us declutter our minds and reconnect with our true selves. Things like mindfulness meditation, spending time in nature, having those meaningful conversations.
Yeah, those are all things that I find super helpful personally. It makes sense that they'd be seen as pathways to a more, I guess, enlightened way of being.
That's all about finding what works for you, what helps you strip away the layers and get back to what's essential. It's a process, a journey of letting go and opening up to something more.
This has been such an incredible conversation. We've covered so much, from the illusion of complexity to the power of simplicity in understanding and decision-making. We've explored the spiritual side of things with the Sacred Atlantean Brotherhood, and even touched on this idea of enlightenment as a state of being that's available to everyone.
It's been a great deep dive. And I think the biggest takeaway for me is that simplicity isn't about deprivation. It's not about having less. It's about consciously choosing to focus on what really matters, both in our inner and outer worlds.
So well said. I love that. And I think this idea of simplifying our lives to make space for connection and even enlightenment, that's something I'm going to be thinking about for a long time.
Me too. And I encourage everyone listening to explore this idea in their own lives. See what resonates with you. Experiment with different practices. And discover how embracing simplicity can enrich your own journey of growth and self-discovery.
Yes, absolutely. And to all our listeners out there, we hope this deep dive has inspired you to think about the power of simplicity in your own lives. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive into the world of ideas.